Hello and welcome to another episode of Climate Watch. I'm your host, Fei Fei. Today we are diving into a very complex topic. We're talking about the pricing of electricity. There are a number of factors that contribute to the design of the pricing system. We want the electricity to be affordable for the majority of the society, and we also want it to be profitable for businesses and also mostly power generators and also distributors. So they want to stay in business and continue to supply the essential power to every household and also industries. And also at the same time, in the current stage, we also want them to be sustainable. So you can see the design of electricity pricing system is complex in every country around the world. Now, China is taking a major step by putting renewable energy on equal footing with traditional sources like coal, which is making up 60% of the overall mix here. In a recent announcement, China's National Development and Reform Commission and the National Energy Administration revealed a new pricing system for electricity generated from renewables, mostly from solar and wind. In the past, renewable energy pricing was fixed, mostly supported by government subsidies and allocations. And now, with the cost of solar and wind power dropping significantly, it seems like now is the time for market forces to take the lead. So the big question is, can renewables really compete with coal, and how will this shift impact China's energy prices? What changes will this major shift bring to the energy transition in the country? As China moves to reform its energy pricing system targeting renewable energies and let market forces play a bigger role here, I'm excited to have Guo Bowei from Renmin University of China with me today. He's an associate professor at the School of Applied Economics there, and he's also an associate researcher at the Energy Policy Research Group at University of Cambridge. His studies focus on energy and environmental economics that include topics like Chinese electricity markets. And today he will help us untangle the complexities of electricity pricing and what this shift means for China's energy future. Hello, Professor Guo Bowei.
Hello, Fei.
Hi, can you first explain to us about this new mechanism when it comes to the pricing of renewable energies? How will the new system work?
Well, prior to this new mechanism, the conventional renewable energy companies, they get paid by a fixed price. The reason is that like 10 or 15 years ago, the construction cost for a new wind turbines or solar PVs were extremely high, were much higher than today. So having them to compete with the conventional coal-fired power plants or gas plants is unfair. So at the moment when 10 or 15 years ago, the policy was to subsidize the renewable energy. So at the moment when they construct new power plants, then the price that they get paid was set by a government. It was a fixed price. And that was due to the high fixed cost for those renewable infrastructures. And now, because of the technological progress and also because of this economies of scale, the cost for renewable energy has substantially reduced. For constructing a new wind turbines has substantially reduced. So that allows renewable energy to compete with conventional power plants. So there's no need to subsidize them. The cost for them to generate each megawatt hour of electricity becomes much lower. So the new mechanism is now a market-based pricing. mechanism. It allows tariffs to fluctuate. So the price that receives by these renewable energy power plants to fluctuate based on the supply and demand. And those renewable energy projects, such as wind and solar, will participate in the electricity market with the price received determined through market transaction. And this new approach would incentivize these renewable energy projects to participate actively in the market and also promote competition and efficiency.
If their price is going to fluctuate, how big of a fluctuation are we going to expect?
Well, first of all, as they participate in the market, then the market will have more participants. So that will enhance market competition. And following the market competition, then the market price would, the average market price would decline. So for both renewable energy companies and for thermal power plants, the price they receive in the market will, I expect the average price to reduce. And of course, there's fluctuation in the market, and that will based on the supply and demand, and also based on the penetration of renewables in the market. And I have no idea how big the fluctuation would be. But based on my experience, well, that will make the market price much more fluctuate because the renewable energy is not dispatchable. So you cannot predict how much electricity they will generate, and you cannot control the amount of electricity they generate. It always depends on the wind speed and sunshines. So that uncertainty will make the price much more fluctuate than it currently is. And that's going to be a challenge for all market participants.
So in particular, when it comes to your expectation that the average market price is going down, how will this affect the wind and solar industry here in China?
I think the main impact is that their revenue, the mode of the making revenue will change. Previously, it's uncertain revenue because the price they get is fixed. When they are making investment decisions, they can easily calculate how much money they can make from this investment, and that return is guaranteed by the government. But now the new rule means that, okay, when I make these investment decisions, I need to carefully calculate the market prices in the future because that will affect my revenue and also my profit. So that's the main on the revenue stream. And that means that they need to do something to sort of hedge these risks.
So what can they do?
Well, one method is to they have to enhance their operational efficiency. They have to compete in terms of operationally making it more efficient. And they can also diversify their revenue streams. They can explore some additional income sources, such as participating ancillary service market or trading in this green power certificates to stabilize their revenue and hedge this market fluctuation. And also, I think they can engage in some long-term power purchasing agreement, which means that through some long-term contracts, they can secure their profit by signing this contract with industrial and commercial consumers and mitigating the risk associated with market price volatility. And also they can probably invest in making more investment in the energy storage system. And this allows them to have higher capacity to store this excess energy. So when the market price is low, they can store the electricity generated from the power plants. And when the market price is high, they can resell it. So that's another way to make more profit.
Since you mentioned about securing some long-term contracts, as I understand, a lot of the traditional thermal power plants here in China have already secured, they have a very long-standing partners in different regions through long-term contracts. So how do you think can renewable power plants compete with the well-established thermal power plants in the market?
First of all, I think there are two main aspects. One is cost. So at least in 2022, China's average utility scale solar levelized cost of energy has declined to $44 per megawatt hour. So that's the cost for them, the average cost for a solar PV to generate electricity throughout its lifetime. So that's the average cost, which is much lower than the levelized cost of energy for coal-fired power plant. So that's one advantage for them. They have much lower cost. And another advantage, I think, is its green characteristics. Because there are a lot of industrial users, they need to export their product to overseas, especially to Europe. And in Europe, they are required to mark the carbon footprint for their product. If the carbon emissions from producing a product was too high, then they might have to pay a tariff, which we call the carbon tariff. So that means that those industrial users are very interested in buying green electricity, in particular electricity from wind and solar. So, and in this green certificate market, they can make excess profit. So now for renewable energy company, there are two ways to make profit. One is from this traditional electricity market. Another is this green electricity market.
I'm also interested in why is China taking steps to shifting the renewable power onto, sort of pushing them onto the market. What are the reasons for them to make this massive, I would take it as a very massive shift?
Yes, it is a very massive shift, but I think it's kind of anticipated because this reform was part of China's ongoing effort to modernize its energy sectors and energy sector transition towards a more sustainable and market-oriented system. And of course, it has its own functions. The document was also released in response to some specific challenges. Those challenges include the need for a greater market efficiency, and that's what I mentioned in the very early place. And it also was a method to respond the integration of advanced renewable technologies and the imperative to reduce environmental impact associated with traditional energy production. Let me explain each of them. So one is that enhance market efficiency. So the previous fixed tariff system for renewable energy, while it was effective in the early development stage, but it leads to inefficiencies and misalignment with market dynamics. By inefficiency, we mean that they only receive a fixed price, and the price is not the same as their actual value, because their value is changing for renewable, but the price was fixed. That misalignment means that the market is inefficient. And this transition into a market-based price aims to optimize the resource allocation and improve the overall efficiency of the energy market. And now the price is varying with market, and the market reflects the true value of renewable energy. And then the market becomes more efficient. And also it encourages the sustainable development of renewable energy. And we all aware that the price of renewable energy infrastructures in China has dropped drastically. And this reform seeks to establish a price settlement mechanism that supports the sustainable development of renewable energy. So there are probably too many renewable energy industries in the market, and some of them are efficient and some of them are not. And I think the policy will gradually phase out those inefficient companies. And also the companies, for those renewable energy companies, their technology might be different. The advancement of their technology might be different. And some are more advanced, they are more efficient in terms of solar generation and in terms of wind generation. And some others may not be as much efficient. So this new price mechanism means that those inefficient companies will probably no longer be able to make sufficient profit under this new mechanism. So they either need some new technologies or invest in more advanced technologies to improve their efficiency, or they just need to shut down and be phased out by the market.
That sort of reminds me of some of the analysis out there about probably possible outcomes of this new policy. Some of them sort of forecast that because of the consideration for revenues, probably some of the renewable power plants will be hesitant to adopt new technologies, simply from the point of view of saving costs. And that probably will hamper the advancement of technology in renewable energy. I'm just wondering, how would you take on this view that in more fluctuated pricing of the electricity will hamper or slow down the development of technology?
I doubt that will be true, because there's short run and long run differences. So when a company invests in technologies, then in the short run, sure, that will increase the cost. But in the long run, when a new technology was invented, it potentially make much greater profit. So I think any big companies who understand the market would not hesitate investing in this market. And then eventually that will have little effect on sort of technological progress in this system. And also, we've already can expect that the following these new mechanisms, that will also incentivize the development of probably energy storage system, because that will also potentially boost the profit for these renewable energy companies.
I think in the original document that announced this new pricing mechanism, there is also a sentence about the provincial authorities also need to work out the detailed policies for this new pricing mechanism, because when it comes to the execution of it really probably much of it depends on regional and provincial governments. And so what do you think are the potential new challenges that will lie in the future when it comes to the provincial levels?
Yeah, then the local governments need to create regional specific regulations that aligns with this national policy, or while addressing its local energy needs and conditions. That's definitely some challenges. And I think also for some provinces, they might welcome the new directives. So for some other provinces, they may not. It may not as much welcomed. So that's all depends on which region we are looking at. I think two things are surely need to be done in short term. One is to enhance the capacity compensation mechanism. So now, as I've mentioned, the market price might reduce because of the entrance of this renewable and because of the higher competition. So for traditional thermal plants, they make less revenue. But now at the current stage, the electricity system need coal-fired power plants, because that helps the system to be stable, to be secure. So there's a need for them to maintain the market while they probably will make no profit or negative profit. So we need a new mechanism, which is called the capacity compensation mechanism, that will need to be improved to enhance their profit streams. So this ensures that the energy producers will receive fair remuneration from maintaining available capacity, especially during periods of low demand. That's one thing. And another thing is that I think we need the development of ancillary service markets. Ancillary service means that the frequent response for the system to respond to fluctuation of supply and demand. So the electricity system is quite a special system, that in this system, supply has to be exactly the same as demand in real time. So to balance this supply and demand, then we need this ancillary service market. And especially in a system with high renewable, this market is essential to support the integration of renewable energy sources and maintain great stability.
And since you mentioned about the nature of fluctuation for renewable energy, and we'll expect the portion of the renewable power will continue to grow in the overall national grid, you also said the role of power storage will be more important for a network like this. And so how do you think the next step for commercializing power storage? I know, technological wise, there are a lot of companies, businesses, and scientists working on that. But issue is really how to make it affordable and also make it available on the market. And what do you think are the essential steps to expand our power storage industry?
This new reform, this change compels renewable energy companies to enhance their trading capabilities and cost management. And in these circumstances, this energy storage system will become indispensable. And as they balance the supply and demand, and they can mitigate the intermittency of renewable and ensure the stability, and consequently the demand for advanced and efficient energy storage solution is poised to escalate. But now the marketization of this energy storage system will need, I think at least in Guangdong province, they have pioneered some initiatives allowing the energy storage entities to operate as independent market participants. And that's a very good example. And that allows them to leveraging mechanisms such as peak-off-peak pricing differentials and capacity leasing to enhance economic returns. For those energy storage and not only these batteries, but also some unity of these small storage systems is also essential for the social planner to have them included as one of the market participants and allowing them to trade electricity in the market. That's one way for having them to make some more profit.
And so you also mentioned that coal power plants may start to feel a little more pressure on the market when they have their renewable peers competing with them pricing-wise. Do you think it will speed up the phasing out of coals here in China? I mean, it still takes about 60% of the overall energy mix right now.
Yes. Now the coal power plants still account for a substantial amount of electricity in this market. For China and the energy security will now need coal-fired power plants because we heavily rely on coal. We don't have sufficient gas as natural resources. We do have sufficient coal as these natural resources. So that's at the moment is quite an important fact for China. From my perspective, I think the coal-fired power plant will certainly face some pressure, especially when it comes to renewable energy, which has much lower cost nowadays than them entering the market. So that will drastically reduce so what they can do is one is to enhance market efficiency. Also, they need to figure out how to make the electricity generated from their power plants more efficient. So that will lower their cost. Probably the cost will still be higher than renewable energy, but will be much lower than their competitors, meaning that much lower than the other coal-fired power plants. And another one is that I think they can invest more in renewable. For coal-fired power companies, they not only benefit from burning coals and generating electricity, but they can also benefit from constructing some renewable energy, diversify their portfolio. And in terms of this phasing out of coal-fired plants, I think the impact of this policy is complex. Despite the rapid expansion of renewable capacity in China, it has continually building on coal-fired power plants. And the reason is that we are still a developing country, and the electricity consumption in this country is growing. And also we need to construct some coal-fired power plants to ensure the energy security. And now we have these new industries, these emerging industries such as AI, such as automation and data centers, and this all consumes electricity. And we also have the electrification of other sectors like the transportation sectors. Many of us start to use electric vehicles. So all of this consumes electricity. And only depending on relying on renewable is not, there's no way that renewable can support all of this increase in electricity demand.
Is that because of the capacity of the renewable powers or the nature of they're not really stable?
Yeah. And even if you have capacities, they might not generate the amount of electricity you want. So, for example, now the capacity of renewable in China exceeds 50% of the total capacity, but the renewable generation is only less than 30%. So there's a difference between capacity and electricity generated, and they are not fully used because they rely on wind and sunshine. So that's a fact. And now that we have both the expansion of renewable energy and an expansion of coal-fired power plants, so that of course will challenge China's clean energy transition. And the structural factors in China's power generation industries, such as long-term coal purchasing agreement and the coal mining companies' investment, are also hindering the shift to clean energy. But I think one thing many of us might explore is that we might ignore the impact of technological progress. So to achieve carbon neutrality, phasing out coal is not the only pathway. Personally, I am optimistic about carbon capture and storage technologies, which captures this carbon dioxide from these coal power plants, so and then burn it in under the ground. Well, that's one way to do that. This allows us to continue using thermal energy while reducing carbon emissions.
Some provinces might welcome this new pricing policy. Some of them may not. And which provinces or regions do you expect will face the most challenges?
I think the provinces that facing most challenge would be the provinces with high renewable energy. So in those provinces, that means that the number of market participants will substantially increase in the market, and that will substantially reduce the prices. As electricity generators, when the price gets reduced, then that means that the revenue or profit is also reduced. So previously, they get some fixed revenue, fixed return, and they're happy about it. And now they might, for some provinces, those renewable energy might even face negative prices, meaning that for each electricity they generated, they have to pay the consumers. So as a generator, they might need to pay the consumers. For example, in Shandong provinces, we sometimes witness these negative electricity prices in the market. As the renewable energy participates in the market, that will probably further reduce the price and even make the price more negative. And in that case, the renewable power plant will make negative revenue during those hours. And that will certainly be very influential for those companies. So there's some in Shandong, they have this long-term contract, for example, year ahead contract and month ahead contract. And in those contracts, the price is not negative. Okay, but the entrance of renewable energy would also substantially lower the long-term contract prices, and that will also affect the revenue for coal-fired power plant, for traditional thermal power plants.
Are there ways that they can adapt if, say, their prices are really, really low and wasn't able to make a profit?
Well, there might be ways. One is through signing some long-term contracts. So the price might be negative in some specific hours, but that it will not always be negative, meaning that they might lose money in some certain hours, but on average, in the long run, they can still make some revenue. And if they want to hedge this short-term fluctuation, they can sign some long-term contract, so they can participate the month ahead market or year ahead market. And that's one way to deal with this issue. And another way is to construct some energy storage system. For example, the reason for Shandong province to having these negative prices in the noon of the day is because they have substantial amount of solar energy. So the solar oversupplied during those hours. And so that will result in much lower prices. So for those solar power plants, if they have this energy storage system, so they can store their energy generated at noon and then redispatch it at night, then that will help them to make higher profit.
That means in the future for power generators and also distributors, they need to be more smart when it comes to when to generate or distribute the electricity available. And that sort of reminds me there are a lot of other technologies that might become useful in this regard. For example, the artificial intelligence you mentioned and power storage, and probably the smart grid system will also start to get boosted again. And then lastly, China wants to build a national unified power market by the year 2029. And the goal for this year, 2025, was to have a preliminary structure in place. And so what role is this new pricing mechanism playing on this track to the unified power market? And why do we need a unified power market essentially?
So implementing this market-based pricing for renewable energy contributes to the overall efficiency of the power market. And the unified power market is also aimed at enhancing market efficiency. The new rule on this renewable energy will encourage the optimal allocation of resources. So now, previously, the renewable energy does not participate in the market. So even if you generate some new electricity, but you don't know whether, for example, you generated some electricity in Gansu province, and then you are looking at selling your electricity to, say, Zhejiang province, then there is no mechanism, there's no ways for you to, platforms for you to do that. If they have this unified electricity market, then they can directly sign contract with electricity retailers in Zhejiang province, and then this trade can be made. And this policy also aligns with China's broader energy goals, including the establishment of a unified power market by 2029. By integrating this renewable energy into market mechanisms, the policy will support the creation of a standardized system for electricity trading, distribution, and pricing across the country. And also, the market-driven policy enhances the attractiveness of renewable energy sectors to investors by providing a more predictable and competitive environment. This investment is crucial for meeting the ambitious renewable energy target for 2035.
You talked a lot about enhancing efficiency in the power industry. And is efficiency really a big issue in the energy sector?
Yes, the answer is positive. And from an economist perspective, yes, it's very efficient. And the reason is that the price is mostly regulated by the government. So the price does not reflect the value. And that's one source of inefficiency. And another inefficiency comes from the fact that those companies with the least cost or the most efficient companies are not supplying the full amount of electricity into the market due to the market mechanism, due to the not insufficient market mechanism. And that's the reason for China for having this inefficient electricity market. The efficiency has been much more improved during the past 10 years, but there's still a long way to go.
And when the power market is well efficient, are we expecting as an individual, as a consumer, are we expecting our bills to surge?
Well, as it becomes more efficiency as a consumer, as a residential consumer, no, we won't. The reason is that there's some other efficiency in the market. So we have this cross subsidy in this market for end users. For residential consumers, we pay very low electricity prices. For example, I think in Beijing it's like 0.6 or 0.5 yuan per kilowatt hour. And but for industrial users, the price is much higher. Probably 1.5 yuan per kilowatt hour or to 2 yuan per kilowatt hour. So that's the reason is that they subsidize the residential consumers from charging more on those industrial consumers. So that makes our price much lower and fixed. That's another problem. The end user prices for residential consumers are fixed. So if the prices are fixed, then the fixed price does not reflect the real-time value of electricity because the real-time supply of electricity is changing, is varying. So the fixed price for residential users does not reflect the varying electricity generation cost. And that's another source of inefficiency. You mentioned that maybe as the renewable energy enters, the market price will reduce. But how about the end user price? Well, on average, we expect it to reduce, but not reduce on residential users, probably reduced on industrial users. But if the electricity prices for industrial users is reduced, then that reduced cost will eventually pass through to consumers, and we will get benefit from the reduced prices of the product by those industrial users. So that's how this transfer to us. Not directly we feel the reduction in electricity prices.
We won't be very much impacted by the changes, but probably gradually in the future is still good news. A huge thank you to Guo Bowei with Renmin University of China for sharing his insights with us. And thank you for tuning into this episode of Climate Watch, delving into the complex web of electricity pricing systems. And I'm also very curious about how the pricing systems works in your country. You can leave a comment down below about how the electricity bills is conjured in your country. You can also reach out to me at fei.fei@cgtune.com, fei.fei@cgtune.com. I'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform. Until next time.